The hotspot icon on my phone was small enough to ignore, which was probably why it had destroyed me so completely in my first life. A blue oval, two curved lines, one neat little symbol glowing in the top corner of my screen while everyone around me pretended the national selection exam was about talent, discipline, sacrifice, and all the noble words teachers embroidered onto banners when they wanted desperate students to feel grateful for being measured. I stood beside locker 312 with my thumb hovering over the switch, watching 37 names appear under connected devices one by one, and I felt no fear.
Not this time.
The bell above the south corridor had not rung yet. The cameras were not facing me yet. The golden girl had not started crying yet. But my phone was already warm in my hand, carrying the weight of every parasite who had once fed through it and then called me the infection when the feed was exposed. In my first life, I had not understood what a hotspot could prove. I thought proof was handwriting, fingerprints, copied answers, a confession, a camera angle. I thought guilt had to look guilty. That was why, when Serafina Vale leaned across the cafeteria table 3 years ago and begged me to share my data because the Academy network was unstable before exams, I had laughed and handed her the password like a fool lending someone a scarf. She had smiled with those soft pink lips that made teachers forgive late submissions before she apologized, and within 2 minutes half our cohort had connected to my phone. They said they were opening timetable updates, checking transport notices, refreshing the exam room allocation page. I believed them because believing people was easier than accepting that everyone around me had already decided I was useful enough to drain and disposable enough to blame. The truth came out after the bell in that first life, when the invigilator stopped us at the door and asked everyone to place their phones into clear evidence trays instead of sealed storage pouches. I remember the sudden silence. I remember Mina Park dropping her lip gloss. I remember one boy whispering, "They know," with a terror so naked it made my stomach twist. I remember Serafina touching my sleeve and murmuring, "Stay calm, Leora. You didn't do anything." That should have warned me. Innocent people do not rehearse innocence for you before you have been accused. 10 minutes later, the exam integrity officers pulled up the network logs. A live answer feed, encrypted under the name Golden Thread, had been accessed by 37 devices through one local hotspot between 7:42 and 8:04 a.m. The feed had carried formula summaries, essay structures, predicted multiple-choice keys, and photographs of a draft paper the board later confirmed had been stolen from the secure printer queue. Everyone who had leached the feed claimed they thought it was a study reminder. Serafina cried so beautifully that even the head invigilator passed her tissues. I was the one whose data carried the traffic. I was the one whose phone had stayed on. I was the one they said had distributed the material. I lost more than the exam that day. I lost the scholarship that would have taken me out of my uncle's house. I lost my place on the merit list, my hostel application, my teaching assistant offer, and eventually the small, stubborn part of me that still believed quiet endurance would be rewarded. The cohort scattered into universities, internships, and family businesses, while I spent 2 years appealing a decision that had already hardened into institutional memory. Serafina became the face of academic resilience because she overcame a false cheating scare and ranked first the following cycle. She gave interviews beside white roses. She smiled under stage lights. She said, "Integrity matters even when nobody is watching." I watched from a rented room above a laundromat, eating instant noodles out of a cracked mug, wondering how many times a person could be punished for another girl's hunger before there was nothing left to punish. Then I died because a bus driver ran a red light during a storm, and I woke up with my phone vibrating against my cheek in the dormitory I had not seen in 7 years.
No angels.
No warning.
No explanation.
Just a cracked screen, an alarm labeled National Selection Exam, and Serafina's message glowing at the top. "Morning, Leora. Can you turn on your hotspot again? The Academy Wi-Fi is being weird, lol." My first thought was not revenge. It was shame, sharp and stupid, because even after death my body remembered being obedient. My thumb almost moved by habit. Then the memory slammed into me so hard I rolled off the bed and hit the floor, dragging the blanket with me, gasping into a room that smelled of laundry powder and old panic. Outside, Someone was laughing in the corridor. Somewhere downstairs, the vending machines hummed. On my phone, Serafina sent a second message with a heart emoji because predators loved decoration. I did not answer immediately. That was the first difference. I sat on the cold floor and opened my settings, not the chat. My device name was still Leora Main, exactly as it had been in the first life. The hotspot password was still my dead mother's birthday because I had once believed no one would misuse something sentimental. I changed it to a string of letters and numbers no one could guess, then changed it back to the old password before my fear could make the trap too obvious. I needed them to believe nothing had changed. I needed Serafina to feel the floor under her feet was the same floor she had already learned how to tilt. But I also needed a line clean and official between my device and whatever happened after the bell. So before I brushed my teeth, before I washed my face, before I even stood up properly, I opened the Academy's technical support portal and filed a complaint. The complaint was simple. My phone hotspot has been used by classmates in the past, and I am worried about device security rules before today's examination. Please confirm the official cutoff time for disabling personal networks and logging device status. I attached a screenshot of my phone details, IMEI number, battery percentage, and the empty connected device list at 5:19 a.m. Then I sent the request to the exam technology desk, the integrity office, and my own email. In my first life, I had trusted people to remember I was honest. In this one, I trusted timestamps. A minute later, an automated response arrived. All personal hotspots must be disabled before the first warning bell at 8 a.m. Candidates are responsible for unauthorized traffic routed through their devices until disconnection is verified. Candidates may request device verification at the surrender desk. I read that sentence 3 times while kneeling on the dormitory floor in my pajamas. Candidates may request device verification. In my first life, no one had told me that because no one had wanted me verified. This time, I took a screenshot and saved it in 3 places. Serafina called while I was tying my shoes. I let it ring until the final second, then answered with my voice deliberately sleep-thick. "Hey," I said, and hated how easily I sounded like the girl she had ruined. "Did you see my message?" she asked, bright and breathless. Behind her voice, I heard the cafeteria noise, trays clattering, chairs scraping, the eager buzz of students pretending they were not terrified. The network is awful again. Everyone's trying to open the last-minute announcement page. Could you please turn on your hotspot when you get here? Just for a bit. You know your data is better than ours. There it was, wrapped in praise. You are useful. You are special. You are the pipe we will drink through, and when poison comes out, we will point at the pipe. I looked at myself in the mirror above my desk. My face was younger, softer, still carrying the tiny roundness grief would later carve away. My eyes were not soft. "Sure," I said. "Only until the bell." There was a pause so small I would have missed it in my first life. "Of course," Serafina said. "Only until the bell." She laughed, but the laugh arrived late, like a train entering the wrong station. I smiled at my reflection. Pattern 1. She needed the hotspot before the bell, but not only before the bell. Pattern 2. She knew the phrase until the bell mattered. Pattern 3. In the first life, when the officers accused me, the illegal traffic had continued for 4 minutes after the first warning bell. That was why they called it intentional distribution instead of careless sharing. Serafina had kept my phone active by distracting me at the doorway, asking me to fix her broken bracelet, crying about nerves, making me hold her water bottle while the feed continued to pulse through my device. For minutes had buried me. This time, for minutes would belong to her. The academy looked too clean for the violence it specialized in. Ash-white buildings, glass walkways, banners that said honor before achievement, gardeners trimming hedges into obedient rectangles while children of donors and ministers marched toward the examination wing with panic hidden behind expensive perfume. The national selection exam chose only 20 students from our province for the Imperial Policy College, and every family within 50 kilometers treated it like a second religion. I crossed the courtyard with my phone in my blazer pocket and my charger in my bag, watching students turn as I passed. Some looked relieved. Some looked guilty. Some looked at my pocket before they looked at my face. That was almost funny. In my first life, I had thought being needed meant being liked. In my second, I realized being needed made people resent you more because dependence made cowards feel exposed. Serafina found me by the bronze statue outside the cafeteria, exactly where she had found me before. She wore a cream cardigan over her uniform even though the morning was warm, her hair clipped back with a pearl barrette, her cheeks pink from either nerves or perfect planning. Beside her stood Damon Lee, the class monitor, holding a clipboard he used like a badge of office. Mina hovered behind them with two phones half hidden under her sleeve. Others drifted closer in little currents, pretending coincidence had gathered them around my data plan. Leora, Serafina said, taking both my hands as if we were sisters reunited after war. You saved us. The announcement page still won't load. I let her squeeze my fingers. Her palms were dry. Mine were not. It's fine, I said and turned on the hotspot. The first device connected before I had even put my phone down. Damon. Then Mina. Then Theo. Then 18 more in a rush, so fast my screen stuttered. In the old life, I had felt proud seeing that list, embarrassed and pleased by how many people trusted me. Now, each name looked like a fly landing on honey. Serafina did not connect immediately. That mattered. She waited until Damon leaned over and whispered something, then pulled out her phone, tapped twice, and smiled when the 38th device appeared under a blank name, iPhone. She had renamed it.
Of course she had.
Thank you, she said softly. You're always so generous. I almost said, and you're always so hungry. Instead, I lifted my phone slightly so the security camera above the cafeteria entrance could see the screen. Connected devices.
Time.
My thumb hovering nowhere near any feed. Then I locked the phone and slid it into my blazer pocket. For 20 minutes, the cohort fed. They stood in clusters under the statue, eyes dropping to screens whenever teachers passed. Nobody looked like students checking announcements. They looked like gamblers watching numbers settle. Lips moved. Fingers flicked. Serafina's phone stayed angled close to her chest, but I saw the reflection in the glass door behind her. A gold header, a scrolling thread, fragments of text appearing faster than any official notice would update. Golden thread. My breath caught anyway. Memory was not armor. Seeing the thing that had ruined me glow in real time made my body forget it had already survived once. My hand trembled inside my pocket, and for 1 second I wanted to scream for the guards, shove the phone in their faces, force the whole scheme into daylight before it could touch me. But sunlight too early only warned snakes to slide under stones. I needed the bell. At 7:53 a.m., I excused myself to the device surrender desk. Damon blocked me first. He did it casually, stepping sideways with a clipboard. Where are you going? They haven't called our room yet. I looked at his shoes, polished so hard they reflected the ceiling lights, and remembered him testifying that I had coordinated access because I was calm while everyone else panicked. Calmness, I had learned, was only admired in the powerful. In girls like me, it was treated as evidence. Tech desk, I said. My battery's dropping. His eyes sharpened. We still need the page open. Serafina appeared beside him like a perfume cloud. Just 5 more minutes, Leora. Please. They might post a last update right before entry. She touched my sleeve in the exact place she had touched me before my life ended. This time, I moved back before her fingers settled. The cutoff is at 8, I said. Rules are rules. The phrase should have sounded weak. Instead, it made her blink. Behind us, someone muttered, "Come on, don't be dramatic." Another voice said, "She always does this." That almost made me laugh, because I had never done anything. That had been my role, to not do things, not complain, not refuse, not make others uncomfortable by having boundaries. I held up my phone, screen facing outward. I'm keeping it on until the warning bell. After that, I'm verifying shutdown at the desk. Damon's jaw tightened.
Serafina recovered fast.
That's smart, she said, turning to the others with her public smile. Everyone, save whatever official notices you need before 8. Leora's just being careful. Just being careful. In her mouth, careful sounded like selfish. The cohort absorbed the cue instantly. Their gratitude curdled into irritation.
Good.
People who resented you made fewer efforts to hide their real faces. At 7:59, the corridor outside the examination wing filled with candidates. 200 bodies pressed toward the metal detectors, clear pouches in hand, admission cards lifted, faces shining under fluorescent lights. The first warning bell hung in the air before it rang. I could feel everyone waiting for it, the way birds know storms before clouds break. Serafina stood beside me, breathing evenly. Her blank-named phone was still connected. So were 37 others. I opened my settings. The hotspot screen glowed blue. Damon glanced at it, then at the clock. Don't turn it off yet, he said under his breath. Not asked. Ordered. In my first life, that tone had made me freeze. In this one, it steadied me. The bell rang once, long and metallic, vibrating through the corridor like a blade drawn from a sheath. My thumb moved. Personal hotspot. Off. The list vanished. Every connected device dropped at once. A ripple passed through the cohort before anyone spoke. Tiny gasps, phones tilted, screens tapped too hard, eyes flying to Serafina. Hers froze for half a second, and in that half second I saw the real girl beneath the pearl barrette. Not sweet. Not nervous. Furious. Leora, she whispered, still smiling because cameras were everywhere. Turn it back on. I slipped my phone into the clear verification tray at the tech desk. I can't, I said. The bell rang. The technician, a tired woman with silver hair and red-framed glasses, scanned my admission card, then my device barcode. Hotspot disabled at 800 hours and 4 seconds, she read from the tablet. Candidate requested verification. Device now sealed. She printed a narrow receipt and handed it to me. It was the most beautiful piece of paper I had ever touched. Serafina watched the receipt slide into my hand, and the color left her face, so cleanly it looked edited. For 2 seconds, she had no script. Then she made one. That's wonderful, she said, too loudly. Now we can all go in properly. But the cohort was not moving properly. They were tapping phones under sleeves, turning away from cameras, trying to reconnect to something that no longer had my device beneath it. That was when the second network appeared. I saw it on Mina's screen because panic made her careless. GV Relay. A private router name. Golden Veil Relay, maybe. Or Golden Verification. It did not matter. What mattered was that they had a backup, and the backup was not me. Serafina's feed did not die when my hotspot died. It limped, switched, reattached itself to another signal, like a parasite finding a new vein. My heart punched once against my ribs. There you are, I thought. The second bell rang at 8:06, the entry bell. Students began moving through the first checkpoint, where invigilators checked admission cards and sealed devices. Last life. This was where Serafina cried over her bracelet and kept me outside for fatal minutes. This time, my phone was already sealed, my receipt folded under my admission card, and my hands were empty. I stepped into the queue ahead of Damon before he could angle past me. He hissed my name, but I did not turn. The first checkpoint officer scanned my card. Green light. She checked my sealed pouch number against the verification receipt. Green light again. Proceed to device clearance arch, she said. The arch was new to me, or maybe I had been too frightened to notice it before. A black rectangular frame stood between the lobby and the exam corridor, humming softly. Above it, a sign read, "Unauthorized live connections or recent secure feed access will result in entry bar." Behind me, the cohort went quiet. Not normal quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when a lie sees its own reflection. I walked through the arch. It beeped once, low and harmless. The screen beside it displayed clear. I stepped aside and turned around because some punishments deserved witnesses. Serafina was 3 students behind me, chin lifted, admission card held between 2 fingers. Damon stood beside her, sweating. Mina had gone pale enough for her lipstick to look painted onto paper. The first boy after me entered the arch and triggered a sharp red alarm. Access hold. Recent connection. Golden thread mirror. The officer lifted one hand. Stepped to the side. He stammered something about announcements. The second student triggered the same alarm. Then the third. Then Mina. The screen repeated the phrase like a bell tolling names. Golden thread mirror. Golden thread mirror. Golden thread mirror. Panic makes people honest in fragments. Serafina said it was safe. Someone whispered. It was just hints, said another. She told us everyone used it. Damon tried to command them silent, which only made him look more guilty. The officers moved with terrifying calm, guiding flagged students into a side holding area marked review. The door to the examination corridor remained closed to them. Every minute mattered. Entry barred after 8:15 meant automatic disqualification from the sitting. Serafina had not gone through the arch yet. She stood just before it, eyes darting from the screen to the officers to me. For the first time in either life, she looked at me not like a tool, not like a victim, but like a locked door she had expected to be open. There must be a mistake, she said and stepped forward. The arch screamed before she fully crossed it. Not a beep, a scream. The red light flashed across her cream cardigan, turning it the color of fresh bruises. The screen did not say golden thread mirror. It said source admin detected. Device alias. GV relay. Secure feed owner flagged. The lobby inhaled. Even students from other cohorts turned. Serafina stopped so abruptly her admission card bent in her hand. For half a second no one spoke. Then the senior integrity officer, a tall man with a shaved head and a voice like a closing vault, said, "Candidate Serafina Vale, step away from the entry arch and place all devices, including secondary routers, on the inspection table." Her eyes filled instantly. I had watched those tears save her once. Up close, they arrived too fast to be grief. They were tools, polished from use. "I don't know what that means," she whispered. "I only used the official page. Everyone was connected to Leora's hotspot. Ask her." She turned it off suddenly. Maybe it confused the system. There it was. The blade swung exactly where it had landed before. A few flagged students latched onto it with drowning hands. "Yes," Damon said. Leora's hotspot was the main connection. She controlled it. The officer turned to me. In the first life, that turn had ended me. My mouth had gone dry, my words tangled, my kindness mistaken for conspiracy. This time, I handed him the receipt. "I requested verification before entry," I said. "My hotspot was disabled at 8 hours and 4 seconds, and my device was sealed by the desk. The feed continued after that through whatever GV relay is. I have no device access now." The silver-haired technician stepped forward before anyone could twist it. "Confirmed," she said. Candidate Leora Chen submitted a tech security concern at 5:21 a.m. and requested independent verification. Her device is clean after cutoff. The word clean moved through the lobby, like weather. Clean. Not innocent because institutions hated emotional words. Clean was better. Clean had logs, receipts, machines, witnesses. Serafina's tears thickened. "She's lying," she said, and the sweetness drained out of her voice so quickly several people flinched. "She set this up. She gave us the password. She knew everyone needed the network." I almost admired the speed of it. She could pivot from angel to victim to prosecutor in 3 breaths. "I gave access before cutoff," I said. "For the official announcement page. That is allowed if disconnected before the bell. That's why I verified." The officer looked at the tablet in his hand. The prohibited feed continued until 8:09 through an unauthorized relay device registered under a masked alias, but paired to Candidate Vale's smartwatch at 7:12. He lifted his eyes. "Candidate Vale, remove your cardigan." She recoiled as if he had slapped her. The lobby froze. "Excuse me," she said. "Remove your cardigan," he repeated, "or a female officer will escort you to a private search room." The scanner indicates a power device beneath the left cuff. For a moment, I thought she would refuse. Serafina Vale, who had made teachers apologize for correcting her, who had made donors compete to praise her manners, who had made an entire cohort believe cheating was only wrong when poor girls were blamed for it, stood under the red scanner light with her lips parted and no audience she could charm. Then the female officer stepped forward. Serafina slowly peeled off the cardigan. Strapped to the inside of her left sleeve was a device no bigger than a matchbox, black, flat, blinking green. The cohort stared at it as if it were a snake pulled from a basket. The senior officer did not touch it until evidence gloves were on. The little relay box ruined her more completely than any confession could have. It had a sticker on the back with a serial number. It had a microSD slot. It had a faint gold smear from the nail polish Serafina wore on her thumb. It had, according to the officer reading from the scanner, maintained a private local feed after my hotspot disconnected. That meant the class had not merely refreshed a mistaken page. They had leached a live illegal feed from her relay, and when my phone vanished from the chain, they had followed hers automatically because their devices had been configured to do so. I didn't know, Mina sobbed. She said it was only predictions. Damon said nothing, which was probably the first intelligent choice he had made all morning. Serafina looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the calculation fail behind her eyes. She had built a trap that required me to be passive after the bell. She had never imagined I would turn off the light and let every insect fly toward hers. By 8:14, the holding area was full. Students pressed against the glass wall, begging, arguing, calling parents, accusing each other in frantic, overlapping bursts. The exam corridor door remained closed to them. The rest of us stood in a separate line, quieter now, each candidate suddenly aware that integrity was not a slogan painted on banners, but a machine with teeth. At 8:15 exactly, the entry supervisor lifted a handheld bell and rang it once. "Entry for morning session A is closed," she announced. "Candidates under review are barred from this room, pending investigation." The words landed harder than shouting. Barred from this room. Not delayed. Not warned.
Barred.
A boy near the back sank onto a bench. Mina covered her face. Damon started demanding an appeal before anyone had even accused him formally, which told everyone enough. Serafina stood very still, cardigan folded over her arm, relay device sealed in a clear bag on the table beside her. I should have felt triumph then. I had imagined it so many times in the years after my first life collapsed, a hot, clean satisfaction, justice arriving like lightning, Serafina exposed, and everyone finally understanding I had not been the villain. Instead, I felt tired. Not weak, not sorry, just tired in the deep place where a girl stores every apology she never received. The officer returned my admission card and pointed me toward room 4. "You are cleared to sit," he said. I nodded. As I passed the holding area, Damon slapped one palm against the glass. "Leora," he called, voice cracking between command and plea. "Tell them we didn't know. You know we didn't know." I stopped just long enough to look at him. "You knew enough to hide your phones," I said. "You knew enough to whisper. You knew enough not to ask the teachers." Then I walked away before his face could teach me mercy I did not owe. Room 4 was smaller than I remembered, or perhaps fear had made it huge before. Rows of desks, white walls, an analog clock above the board, sealed exam packets stacked on the front table beneath the hands of 2 invigilators. No golden girl. No cohort buzzing through stolen signals. No Serafina touching my sleeve. Just paper, silence, and the strange, terrible freedom of having no one connected to me. I sat at desk C12 and placed my verified device receipt beside my admission card because I liked seeing it there. The invigilator distributed papers. When the packet landed before me, I did not open it immediately. My hands rested on the cover sheet. For 7 years in the life I had lost, I had believed this exam was the door. If I had passed, I would have escaped. If I had escaped, I would have become someone else. Sitting there now, I understood the door had never been the paper. The door was the moment I stopped letting thieves call themselves my responsibility. The exam began at 8:30. The first question was not one I remembered. That startled me so badly, I almost laughed. Of course it was different. The illegal feed had carried a stolen draft, and after the breach alert, the board must have switched to a reserve paper. All those students had risked their futures for answers to a ghost. I read the question twice, breathed once, and started writing. My preparation was not perfect. My memory from the first life helped, but it did not solve everything. I stumbled through a data interpretation section, crossed out an entire paragraph in the ethics essay, and spent 4 minutes staring at a policy scenario until the words stopped sliding around. But every mark I earned belonged to me. That mattered more than brilliance. A stolen perfect score could be struck. A difficult, honest one could stand. Halfway through the paper, a disturbance rose beyond the corridor doors. Muffled voices, a sharp sob, someone saying, "You can't call my father?" Then silence swallowed it. The invigilator did not react. Neither did I. That was another difference from my first life. Back then, every sound outside a room had owned me. Someone else's panic could pull my attention like a leash. I had lived alert to other people's moods because survival in my uncle's house, in the dorm, in Serafina's orbit, required constant translation. Was that smile safe? Was that silence anger? Was that request a test? This time, the only sound I let matter was my pen moving across paper. Scratch.
Pause.
Scratch. The rhythm was plain, almost boring. It was the sound of a life no longer broadcasting itself for others to use. When the final bell rang at noon, I capped my pen and felt nothing dramatic happen. No crown lowered onto my head. No enemy dragged past the window screaming. Just the invigilator collecting scripts row by row while my wrist ached and sunlight shifted across the floor. Outside, the lobby had been emptied of most students, but the holding area still had 3 officers inside and a table covered in sealed evidence bags. I saw Serafina through the glass door of interview room B, seated with her parents and the senior integrity officer. Her mother's pearl earrings flashed as she leaned forward, speaking too fast. Her father looked less angry than embarrassed, which was probably worse for a family like theirs. Serafina's eyes were red now, but the tears had changed. They were no longer performance. They were fear arriving late to a stage already cleared of applause. The investigation summary came by email that evening because institutions moved fastest when wealthy children embarrassed them in public. I was sitting on the dormitory laundry room floor, watching my clothes turn behind scratched glass, when my phone buzzed inside its sealed evidence return bag. Temporary exam clearance confirmed. Candidate Leora Chun. No prohibited access detected after cutoff. Device logs consistent with voluntary compliance. I read it once, twice, then pressed my forehead to my knees and laughed so quietly the washing machines almost covered it. Voluntary compliance. Such cold words for the first warm thing the academy had ever given me. 10 minutes later, the cohort chat exploded. I had not left it yet. I wanted to watch the last performance. Mina, they said, interim disqualification. Theo, my parents are coming. Damon, nobody say anything without counsel. Unknown number, Serafina told us it was approved predictions. Another, approved by who? Another, she charged people for access. I have transfer proof. Another, she said Leora was hosting it. The chat paused after my name, waiting for me to enter the old role. Defend, explain, absorb, soften. I typed nothing. Screenshots began appearing. Payment confirmations. Voice notes. Serafina's messages promising verified last-minute guidance. Damon's instructions telling everyone to connect first to my hotspot, then to the backup if Elle gets weird about rules. That line made me stare until the washing machine clicked into its rinse cycle. Elle gets weird about rules. In my first life, they had known exactly what they were doing. They had not been innocent insects flying toward light. They had been thieves annoyed that the lock had feelings. At 9:03 p.m., Serafina messaged me privately.
No greeting.
No heart emoji.
Just you planned this.
I looked at the words while the laundry room light flickered above me. In another life, I might have defended myself. I might have said I only followed the rules, that she had done this to herself, that I had not forced anyone to connect to her relay. But the truth was more complicated and less apologetic. I had planned to survive. If her destruction was attached to my survival, that was because she had tied the rope herself. I typed one sentence. I turned off my hotspot at the bell. Then I blocked her. It felt too small for revenge, almost anticlimactic, and maybe that was why it satisfied me. A door closing quietly can be more final than a scream. Monday brought the formal notices. 37 candidates barred from the examination room received automatic nullification pending misconduct hearings. 12 who had paid for the feed faced extended bans. Damon lost his monitor position before lunch. Mina's parents withdrew her from the academy by Wednesday. Serafina lasted longer because money always buys a few extra breaths underwater, but by Friday the board confirmed what the scanner had already known: unauthorized relay possession, distribution of prohibited material, sale of secure exam guidance, attempted attribution of network traffic to another candidate. Her results were voided. Her eligibility was suspended indefinitely. The Imperial Policy College blacklisted her from all affiliated selection cycles. The Academy website removed her smiling profile from the honor banner so quickly the blank space looked like a missing tooth. People apologized after that because consequences make cowards sentimental. A girl who had called me dramatic offered me a muffin and said she had always felt something was off. A teacher who once praised Serafina's leadership told me she admired my composure. Damon's mother emailed my guardian to ask whether I would consider writing a statement describing Damon as misled rather than malicious. I deleted it. The academy counselor asked if I wanted to process the trauma of the day. I almost told her I had already processed 7 years of it in another life and found the conclusion fairly clear. People who benefit from your silence will call your boundaries betrayal. Instead, I said I was busy preparing for the interview round. That was also true. The strangest moment came 2 weeks later when I saw Serafina outside the north gate. She was not in uniform. No cardigan, no pearl barrette, no crowd orbiting her like she was gravity. She stood beside a black car with tinted windows, holding a cardboard box of locker contents. For a second, I saw the girl she might have been if admiration had not become an appetite. Then she looked up, and the softness vanished. "Are you happy?" she asked. There were many answers.
Yes. No.
Not enough. More than you deserve. Less than I expected. I settled on the only one that belonged entirely to me. "I'm disconnected," I said. Her face tightened because she understood. I walked past before she could turn the conversation into another stage. I passed the interview round in early winter. Not first. Not as a miracle. I ranked 19th out of 20, which would have humiliated the old me because I had once believed survival had to look flawless to count. Now 19th looked like a kingdom. My scholarship letter arrived in a plain envelope with no gold seal, no dramatic music, no crowd waiting to applaud. I opened it alone at my desk, the same desk where I had woken with Serafina's message glowing on my phone, and for a long time I simply held the paper. Outside, the dormitory corridor was loud with ordinary life. Someone arguing about laundry, someone laughing too hard, someone running late. My phone lay beside my elbow, dark and silent.
No hotspot.
No connected devices. No names feeding through me. On the morning I left for the Imperial Policy College, I found the old verification receipt tucked inside my emission folder. Hotspot disabled at 8 hours and 4 seconds. Device sealed. Candidate cleared. The ink had faded slightly, but I kept it anyway. Not because I needed proof anymore. The board had proof. The academy had proof. Serafina's own relay had given them more proof than I ever could. I kept it because it reminded me how small the first act of escape can look from the outside. A thumb tapping a switch. A girl stepping out of a cluster. A phone going dark at the exact second everyone expected it to keep serving them. In stories, rebirth often begins with vows, knives, storms, and speeches. Mine began with a hotspot turning off at the bell. And if you are waiting for me to say I forgave them, I did not. Forgiveness was not the prize. Peace was. The class that leached Serafina's feed was barred from the room, and the girl who built the feed finally learned that a stolen signal still leaves a trail. As for me, I learned something better than revenge. When people only love you as a connection, the most powerful thing you can do is disconnect.
So I did.
I turned off the hotspot, walked into the exam alone, and wrote my future in ink no one else could route through their device.